Hello and welcome to the Friday wrap-up powered by the Gokhstein News Network. This is Landy, and today is Friday, the 18th of July, and that's a weird way to say that, but bear with me because we have some things to talk about regarding Bitcoin's price action, and we're going to take a look at Bitcoin dominance and Ethereum again, and we're going to continue our conversation that we started on Wednesday in regards to what could potentially be coming for Bitcoin dominance and Ethereum here as Ethereum continued to push up in terms of its ETH BTC pair, and dominance is still falling for Bitcoin. And there's some key things to watch out for. And it's going to start with the Bitcoin chart here on the daily. And we'll talk about some weekly criteria that I'd like to see for the bulls. And we'll talk about some potential bearish scenarios in terms of corrections as well. We're going to start with that here on the daily. We do have a swing downtrend in place now. We do not have a higher low set just yet. So we have the higher high, higher low, and a lower high swing now. So we did set this low side swing as a higher low swing, but now we have a lower high swing with the closure of the Friday candle. Now, this is not a closing lower high just yet. If we do see, if we do see about 117,469, nice, dropped, then that would set the closing high up here. Some might even take the more aggressive approach to that at the actual support line right here that Bitcoin is teasing at this particular moment. And that's going to be at, let's see, it's right around 117,780 or so. And that means, if we do see that move, and especially a close below there, and especially the 117,469 here, be aware of this higher low swing. And that's at 115,700 or so. If that does occur, I'd be looking for a correction somewhere back to the basis band, somewhere around the 113 and a half range. And possibly, if that area is lost, even in lower term timeframes, I'd be looking for a retest of the breakout. Now, this white support area or support and resistance zone of interest down here is from the weekly. So it's going to look a little bit different. Now that I've went back and recharted the weekly, we have the 112 weekly closing high to the 112 swing high to the 109 weekly closing high. So that's going to be the main area of interest, and that encompasses the daily top side of the structure down here. Even grabbing a bit of this order block candle down here from the last daily consolidation higher low structure on a closing basis, as we don't have a closing higher low or a closing lower high. We do have a closing higher high up here. And, this is just the next big area of interest. And that would be a retest of the breakout if we did see a move down there. For continuation back to the upside here, as this move has begun to slow down and consolidate right here around the low side swing structure and closing structure here, we have seen Bitcoin lose the upper first standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands here at around 118. I'm going to call it 350 to 400 because if price does start to move back up towards it, it will adjust here on the daily. If we do see closes back above here, we need to see this lower high swing closed above, and that's around $121,000. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to mark that as another area of interest overhead. If we do see that area closed above, and you can even take the high over here if you like, you start seeing 119,863 on a close. Broken above in lower term time frames, look right to that 120 to 121 area. So we might as well mark that. I think above there, we can just kind of call this the green zone to go and test the high. So we'll make this a green zone. So we've got our stoplight pattern or stoplight areas of interest now on the board here. And if we do see price trading back above 121 and especially closing, then I would be looking, kind of the same area that I was looking for on the way up here. It was 118 to 120, and then above 120, I was looking for, 123 to get hit. We now have that, and that's coming in line with our upper second standard deviation here on the daily. That's really, really important. I think, if we did see the lower high swing closed above, that's on the board now. In addition, if we started to see price trade above $123,000, I'm looking for around 125. Anywhere above there, I'm looking right up to the upper third standard deviation. I will say that with the bands expanded like this, that's a little bit lower of a likelihood. But 128 to 130 would definitely be on the board. And it really depends on how long this consolidates and if this low side structure holds around the 115.7 to the 117.8, we'll call it right here on the lows. That's going to be very, very important. If we do see a consolidation form here, then the potential for price to take out the high is still on the board for the bulls. Run the higher high up here at 123, possibly go for 125, and then start moving towards the 128. But be aware when you see bands pass price like this and start to go sideways, the upper second, upper third standard deviations become big reversal areas. But the longer it consolidates and the further that these swoop over top, we could potentially see a scenario where the basis starts to move right into the lows here and price goes sideways. And then the upper second is somewhere around the upper third, 125, 128, 130 area. So while it is a lower likelihood, over the weekend into Monday that we just shoot right up, if this area holds, that we just shoot right up to that 128 to 130, it's still a possibility. It's always a possibility, but it's a little less likely when you see this kind of a setup on the board. So understand the lay of the land. The big thing is if we do see the bottom side break down, swings are fine. It's really closes below that 115,700 that start to look a little bit more corrective. In the lower term timeframes, if it does start to push below, just be aware of where the basis band is. Of course, that's a 20 simple moving average. Currently at the 113 to 113.5 area is kind of what I'm going to call it. It will continue to move up the longer that Bitcoin consolidates here. Anywhere below there, 112, 109 is the big zone of interest here with some dailies along the way. 110, 500. We got, 109, 600 with the 110, 6 highs here, essentially a topping out on swings here. And realistically, where it gets dangerous for the bulls is anywhere below that 109 region. You can see the lower first there is now above the prior higher low in a close, and swing it's right above it, just right above it. And if that were to get closed below, then we're looking at this low as the next big area on the daily. And I'm gonna draw this out in. I'm gonna make this a purple zone. And just so we can differentiate it from the daily here. So let's go ahead and let's get that, make that purple. So that's going to be the big area of interest there. And it, with price being below the lower first, if it did get there and start to break below, then we look to, the bottom side structure here. And yes, there is highs, but these highs that are all through here are confluent with this low side structure. And then of course, we have confluence with this low side structure with this high over here and this high over here. We even have some order blocks along the way. So just understand that bulls want to see the area that price is currently trading in hold up. And realistically, there is room to the downside on swings. Just don't want to see daily closes below that 115,700 over here. And that's going to be right there. Now, the confluence with that 128 to 130 that I've been talking about, many of you already know. On the weekly, we can see that that is the prior. This, by the way, was a monthly high to a monthly higher low, even though it was a weekly downtrend here. If we take a log scale Fibonacci retracement with extensions, we can see that Bitcoin pushed the upper second standard deviation on the weekly here, around that $123,000 area nearly perfectly. And just above it is a 1414 at 128. I would still put that around 128 to 130. Much as I mentioned on Wednesday, the upper third standard deviation, especially if Bitcoin closes anywhere above the upper first, which is right in the weekly high side structural zone here, from the swing high to the closing higher high. As long as Bitcoin is remaining above there, which right now is around 109,358, right? No, I'm sorry, it's 110, 634, which is right smack dab on the top side of this candle here. As long as Bitcoin is trading closing the weekly above there, what we're going to see is the upper second likely move to around $125,000, $126,000 area, start accelerating towards that 1414 at the 128, and we'll likely see the upper third start to move towards that 138, 140 area. So that is good. And the other good thing that we're seeing on the weekly for the bulls here is the basis band, provided that Bitcoin remains above it, which is statistically a high likelihood from here, but not out of the question that price can't nuke through it. But in this case, this is likely going to be above the last weekly higher low, and that's a positive sign for the bulls. That's what they want to see. And let's get through a few other things here. I know the chart's a little bit of a mess. I did want to remind those who might be new to watching some of these videos that that 128 to 130 overhead area of interest is not just local off of this higher high to higher low swing structure, but it is very confluent, or it is directly confluent with a prior cycle high to bear market low fib extension there at the same number of 1414 at 128 too, and I would give it a little bit of room to 130 there. So there is a lot of confluence on the board here. Bulls are still in a very strong position. Bears are trying to fight back. I know that OI has been rising in this area. Oh, sorry. Let me get that back and straightened out there. And it's just something to pay attention to over the weekend here as we come into the weekly close on Sunday. Now let's follow up really quickly here with Bitcoin dominance. We're now on since the last high. This is the longest period we've seen since last year that Bitcoin dominance has swung a high and then gone into a downtrend. We are now on our 22nd day without any kind of a rebound. We did have a little consolidation on Bitcoin dominance here, and we can see that it's quite aggressive to the downside here. It could bounce. It's getting into some extremes. I don't think it's ready just yet. We'll see if it gets ready over the weekend, if price just kind of chills out or heads down, and maybe Bitcoin dominance tries to rebound. But right now, it's still an ongoing move for a downside move on Bitcoin dominance. And from the weekly perspective, you can see that this would be a weekly trend break for Bitcoin dominance. That's a big, big, big deal. But I wouldn't get too excited because we need to see the trend reversal set up for the weekly. And we know what happened the last time in November. We saw a big weekly trend break to the downside, big move down in Bitcoin dominance. And, it was a bit of a bigger move down than what we're seeing right now. If I get out the measurement tools here, in terms of percentages, we had knocked off 11% there. The last move down that was, or the next move down was about a 6.45%. The most recent in relation to this was a 5.34. And we've got now a move down of about 7%. So, it was a more extreme move down, but it wasn't quite as lengthy. And then what you saw on the other side of that was that, we saw a lower high on Bitcoin dominance as it headed back up, but then it went right into higher low, higher high structure. So we had a trend reversal set up to a trend break, and then higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Now we have a lower low. So you still need to see a trend on it form. And you can just compare that to like an ETH BTC chart or any other BTC paired chart. You'll see that they've been rebounding, and quite frankly, Ethereum has been leading the way here with, I think, the best chart of the alts on the weekly off of the lows in relation to some of the larger cap coins. There might be others that are better looking than this, but this is a very clear reversal setup for price action. We had the lower high to a higher low, trend reversal setup to trend break, and that's the confirmation of the reversal. And realistically, from a weekly standpoint, technically this is targeting somewhere around the 3930 to 4400, right? And we need to see ETH recover that area. If it does pull up short of that area, we kind of already hit our daily targets, topping right there on the daily so far at 36.77, almost 37, which is this high side structure right here. So it's this lower high that Ethereum is running into right now that needs to be recovered. And then I think it's clear sailing to that 39.30 to 4,400 area. We'll see if Bitcoin cooperates, and if that's going to be something that that we see occur sooner rather than later. This is also where an upper third is, and coming off of a downside expansion right back into upside expansion with very little compression. I just would be aware of this overhead resistance right now at 36.35 to 37.50 by that upper third, but we will likely see if Ethereum closes above the upper second here at 32.55. It's highly likely that we'll see the upper third now, trek up to that zone just above at the 39.30 to that 4,400 area. Obviously, it would be on the bottom side. And realistically, on the weekly, you can pull this as a weekly zone if you want. There's some historical relevance to this area between the 29.30 to 3K area and 2,700. That's what I need to see hold for the bulls here. Otherwise, this kind of falls apart and tries to head back down to this area, right? And that's also where the upper third is. We see the basis starting to curl around, get its upside look here. And we do want to see the basis, continue past this last higher low. But it looks good. It looks good. Nice strength from ETH. That is what you want to see no matter what altcoin you're in. If it's just, Solana and other alts that are running and ETH is lagging, it's going to, it's harder to take a big chunk out of Bitcoin dominance. So I even if you're not a fan of ETH or you're support a different network, you want to see ETH pulling its weight with your coin as well. And I did mention Solana a little bit, I believe on Wednesday. The big thing with Solana is it's not quite there yet. It's testing nice higher low here. We have the lower high, but smacking its head right into this 180 to 190 region. Need to see that recovered. That would put it above this last lower high, and that would confirm the trend reversal setup. The confirmation would come in above 187, and really you want to see it pushing above 190, and then we can start looking towards the 210 region, and then some dailies in between 210 and 253 up there. But yeah, it's looking good. And the question that I've been getting a lot lately is alt season here? Is alt season here? Again, I'll just point you back to a little bit earlier in the video when I said, we need to see a trend form. So a trend reversal setup. We have a lower low on Bitcoin dominance. We need to see a lower high and then continuation past this most recent lower low. Or we just need to see, to have some more fun, just need to see Bitcoin dominance continuing to push down to have some more fun in alts and memes and RWAs and everything else, right? Because it's the rest of the market does benefit from a decrease in Bitcoin dominance when Bitcoin is headed towards highs and consolidating. Now we just we wait to see for confirmations through the weeklies and kind of where Bitcoin dominance finds a base and where alts find local highs on dailies that turn into weekly highs. The structure looks really good right now for ETH. So even if it does start to get corrective, you got to give it a chance. Don't get discouraged until, conditions to break down are met. And those are pretty far away for ETH right now. Solana looks good, strong. There's many other alts that are looking good and strong in this area. They just need to kind of pick their butts up off the floor and break their last downtrending highs, lower highs. And so far, ETH is leading that charge right now. And there's a few others as well. So a few other large caps as well. But, ETH, Solana, I think would be a good pair to see running together and breaking structure. So you need to see Solana pick up and break structure to the upside as well. But as it stands right now, Bitcoin looks good. Genius Bill is passed now. We'll see what comes of that, and maybe even talk a little bit here about that if I have the chance. And there's some, maybe some more issuers that come through in that regard. We will have some financial stuff to talk about economy is looking quite strong. Actually, there's some good economic indicators or underlying economic indicators. We're probably going to start talking about whether or not Jay Powell's going to cut rates. But yeah, I personally I don't think he will this month. But we'll see. We'll see how maybe the Genius Act starts to cloud that picture a little bit of certainty as to whether or not he cuts or not as we head into the back half of the month and really towards the end of the month. I hope you all had a wonderful week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And of course, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please treat safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out. Take care